You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and really delighted to welcome a reality TV, star. Really a blast from the past. I don't know anybody who is a millennial that doesn't remember some of the reality TV coming out of MTV, but MTV Road Rules, if you can believe it, is turning 30. 30. They start their anniversary celebration, and we are so glad to have one of MTV Road Rules' most memorable stars join us today. I'm really delighted to welcome Dr. Kefla Hare. He burst onto the MTV screen in 1998 as a cast member of Road Rules Down Under, hailing from Foley, Alabama.
That's right.
How can we forget his strong presence and leadership in team missions like drag performances and crocodile wrangling and community outreach? It all helped him stand out early in his TV career, and he's here with us today. Welcome to the show, Dr. Kefla.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I need to keep you with me all the time, I love that introduction.
Well, I mean, we love your contribution to the canon of reality TV. Could you have imagined that you would be here talking about that experience on MTV Road Rules 30 years later?
Well, I could have imagined, because with anything, life's adventures always leads to life's greatest stories, later on. But would I have imagined that what we've done give birth to so many other things the way it is now? No, not in the least bit. Not in the least bit. Could
And
I have imagined me being still relevant to this point, which I wasn't relevant until I got back on again, but it's like, no, I had no clue.
what inspired you to show up to the casting call for MTV Road Rules? I mean, this is the early
Yeah.
days where folks weren't sure what
hmm
would become of them participating in a so-called reality TV show.
My story is totally different than a lot of other people who did the casting because I had no clue what the show was about. I didn't even know the show. I didn't even voluntarily come to the audition. I was on campus and I worked in student activities. And there was a phone call, and it was from one of the casting directors. I answered the phone. And they was like, "Hey, this is Kenny Hull and Leola Westbrook from MTV, and we're trying to do a show, and we want to come on campus. We need someone to show us around." I was like, "Well, I can do it. Just when you get here, come to student activities. I got you." So I still didn't know what the show was about. And then they said, "We want people that's funny, that's dramatic, and all that stuff." So I was showing them everybody on campus and with no intentions of me being on the show at all. I ask, "Hey, can I do an interview?" And they got all these kids up for the interview, and then as a thank you we went out to dinner, and we were sitting at a bar, and behind us were a group of people talking about the football game the week prior. And they were saying, "Oh my God, man." And when the mascot and the other mascot got into a fight, and the police had to come on the field, the National Guard had to come on the field and escort them off, and both teams got penalties because it was in the middle of the game. And they was like, "Oh my God, we should interview the mascot." And so I turned around, and the people were like, "Tifla, man, tell them about when you got kicked out of the game." And it was like, "Yo, that was you." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "No, dude, you got too much to tell." So they said, "Come to the hotel tomorrow, do an interview, bring the Hornet costume." And so I brought the costume at my university, Alabama State University. We're Hornets. And so I did my interview. So if you go back and find some of the old footage, you'll see my casting interview. Part of it is in the Hornet costume.
Wow. So wait a minute. I'm not just talking to, an MTV Road Rules legend, but I'm talking to a legendary Alabama State University Hornet mascot.
Yes, yes, you are.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Who knew?
Man, it's a lot of layers to me, man. Like I played football at one school, transferred to Alabama State, and I wanted to play football there, but they couldn't get the transfer stuff right. So I became a cheerleader slash mascot. Yeah, because I was
Wow.
like, I need to do something.
And this is part of the reason why a lot of people think of you as the athletic standout from Road Rules Down Under. We can't forget your charisma, how competitive you were, how much heart you brought to the show. But talk to us about your life now as an educator, right? So you've gone from being a
Yeah.
reality TV breakout star and somebody who sort of lives in the zeitgeist
Mhm.
to creating quite a career as an educator.
Yeah, I always wanted to do something in entertainment. Because I came from a small town where, you watch Soul Train and that was it. And then Soul Train, you had to be a certain age to watch it, in my household. And so I was like, I was going to be a dancer, I was going to be an actor, but it wasn't a realistic dream.
Mm-hmm.
So I started trying to think, like, what can I do in order to have the free time to audition? And I remember talking to my teachers, and they had their summers off. And I was like, I'm gonna move to Hollywood and I'm gonna be a teacher in California and I'm gonna act. And so the main reason why I became a teacher was to have my summers off in order to audition. But God had other plans and which allowed me to actually be good at what I do. And I've been teaching now for 20, what, 24 years? Yeah, 24 years. And I love it, man. And it's actually me being on television has been a catalyst in making sure I can connect with my students. Even though some of the videos are old, I can go to YouTube, pop up the clip where we played basketball against Kobe Bryant, or the clip where I did the drag, so it kind of shows them the connection, you know, just how well-rounded I am as a human being and how accepting I am of, lifestyles. I'll pop in the video of me being afraid of the crocodiles and the snakes, and it gives my students something instantaneous
Mm-hmm.
to, gravitate to and to hold on to. And for a few moments, I'm the coolest thing on the planet.
Well, I can only imagine what it's like to be your students. It's like, oh my gosh,
Oh, it's fun
look,
every day.
looking at your teacher in a situation where they're actually really afraid, or they're actually really free, or
Hmm.
really just sort of showing up, and not concerned about what other people think. You mentioned the episode where you did drag. Uh,
Yeah.
and that's an episode that was really ahead of its time. I
Oh
mean,
man.
the early days of reality TV,
Yeah.
and the LGBTQ rights movement wasn't nearly what it would become in the decades to follow. Talk to us about the response that you received, particularly from uh, you know your family, your community, when they saw you show up. And I have a suspicion that you might have challenged some assumptions, and you might have helped people to evolve just a little bit by showing up in that episode that way.
Yeah, I think for me, man, people that know me, and then people that leave me, and what I mean by that is once you meet me and then we walk our separate ways, you will understand that the the aura that really surrounds me more than anything is love. And I just carry that, man. And I grew up with that. I grew up treating everybody kind, everybody respectfully. Growing up in rural, deep southern Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
where racism is just as prevalent as the opposite side of your hand. you know um we were still in my household taught to love. And so that when that situation came about to play in that particular part, um, I wasn't afraid, but you may see my face. I was like, "Whoa, wait a minute," because they were so up front in my face with. I was like, "Wait, back up." Hold on, let me process everything, because I'm trying to see what's going on. It's so much because we were there during Frocks on the Rocks, which is one of the largest gatherings. And it was people from around the world. For example, one of our camera crew guys, he ran into several people from Los Angeles, all the way in Sydney, Australia, that were just there for the event. And so once I got it, and, I love to perform. Once I got in the costume, and I did my best Shanae Baps, impersonation, and I'm gonna have fun with it, as long as I'm not being distasteful to anybody.
Yeah.
Um, it was everything. And then people saw that how comfortable I was just still being Kefla, still being respectful, but playing along and just having a good time. It really made people understand, like, oh, okay, so this isn't that bad. This is a lifestyle, just like a person is into punk rock, when it comes to their style, or they're still a human being. If a person has a different religion, they're still a human being. They still love, they still hurt, they still feel. And so I think that was a huge turning point for me. I definitely know when I came home, received a lot of love for that, especially in the Black community, because the way I embraced it for them was not any way to make them feel ashamed.
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty cool, pretty cool.
Have you done any drag since? Would you do any drag? I
I
mean,
would do
this is the 30-year anniversary. I'm just saying, if you want to come out with a bang.
I would do it, performance wise, because when it comes to performance, um, and to me, it's just clothes. You know what I mean? That's it. It's just clothes, and it's just it's not my active lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just clothes for me. I do a grandmother skit when I do when I do things for my church. I do little things like that. I do when we raise money at school. I do this character called Fantasia Claus. And so we do different kinds
Fantasia
of.
Claus?
Yeah, Fantasia Claus, and she's like the hood auntie. She gives all the little hood gifts to the kids, So I walk around my campus and I do that for the kids. But it's pretty fun. Like, I give them a pot holder, I might give them a cup, something like that, just little stuff, toothbrush, tell them, make sure they use it. But it's a lot of fun. Um, for me, man, it's as long as it's not taking away my morals and values, and I'm not disrespecting anyone in the process, intentionally disrespecting anyone in the process, I'm cool. Yeah, of course I would do it.
So, word on the street is that MTV had an interest in bringing you back for later seasons, like the Battle of the Sexes and the
hmm
Inferno, and you passed. Is that true?
Yeah, Battle of the Sexes was right when I got engaged to my wife, now my current wife, Cree. And I was like, nah, y'all trying to mess up a good thing. I'm not gonna let that happen. Because I know how they could probably try to spin it. And then Inferno, she was pregnant with the twins, but she was on bed rest. So I wanted to make sure I was there. And during those times, people were not turning down the show because they was like, oh, let me go, let me go, let me go. And some were offended. I heard through the grapevine that some casting directors were offended that I was turning the show down.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, I'm turning the show down for a good reason. At least that's what I thought, because of family. And if you know me, you know that I'm family first, foremost than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then the calls went cold. I ran into a casting director, and they said about a few years after that, they said, you're always high on the competitive list. You're always high on the likability list. But where you're going wrong is the drama. That's when reality started turning into being dramatic, cussing, fussing, and kicking and fighting. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, well, that's the only reason why I'm not being chosen. Then y'all can keep not selecting me, because I'm not going to do that. That's, I got kids, I have a wife, I have a career that once y'all stop taping, I still got to pay a mortgage.
That's right.
So, I have something to uphold.
I mean, I'm so glad that you brought that up because, I think that is true uh, in the world of news and entertainment, period. Right.
hmm
I think there are a lot of executives, a lot of companies that dig us,
Yeah.
for our likability, that dig us for our hot takes. But after a while, if we're not feeding the drama, if we're not
Yes.
feeding into the drama, then we become sort of less and less marketable,
Right.
in your view, right? And I certainly think that that scenario is highly problematic because you end up, seeing, black folks, and we're black men talking here. So you end up seeing
Mm-hmm.
black men, that are hyper masculine, hypersexual, that are very extreme,
Yeah.
because executives think that that's the only way to get an audience or keep an audience.
Very true. Very true. When I first got on the show, I didn't want to be deemed the angry black guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I was very conscious of what I was saying when I was saying it, but I also knew that I didn't want to dim my light to the point where it didn't show strength. It didn't show that we are passionate, but I've always been um aware of my space. I've always been aware of what I represent, a much larger scale than just Kefla, you know. And a lot of times I tell people, I said, if it comes down to me being the representative for the black male, I would definitely do it. I may fall short in certain areas, but I guarantee you, I'm not going to just make us look bad. And so when during that show, man, it was there were moments that could have got heated. There were moments when they wanted me to cuss and fuss, on camera, but I was like, I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not the place. That's not who I am. And when I got home and people watched the show, and when I would go to those chocolate cities like Atlanta, DC, or Chicago, and people would say, "Yo, I appreciate you for representing us, man. You did a great job." Not only was I representing people from the South, who they already thought we weren't educated anyway, and I was just representing people who were showing up, let them know that the black male does show up. The black male is intelligent. The black male can care about people outside of his race. The black male does have some substance about him. And that made me more proud than anything is when people said, "Yo, I appreciate you for representing us well."
Well, we sure appreciate you for representing us well, and we want to encourage everybody to tap in. MTV Road Rules again is turning 30.
30.
I can hardly believe it. This means that Dr. Kefla's salt and pepper is as real as my salt and pepper.
It's real, real. It's real, real.
Real, 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 real.
Yeah.
And there are going to be a series of in-person West Coast events on July 27th that'll be recorded and available nationally on their podcast and website after the fact. And so for those of you out there that may be interested and available, you may want to tap in. Where can people go to tap in to participate in the live in-person recording?
Well, they can go to, I want to say it's the Challenge Mania podcast.
.com.
.com. They can go there. They can go just type up Challenge Mania on your social media sites, and you'll be able to find it there. But hey, I got some things that's up in the fire right now too. So my
Sure.
wife and I are currently working on a podcast, and we will unleash our first 4 episodes on the day of the event. So that will be July the 27th. It is called Refreshingly Normal Podcast. So the Refreshingly Normal Podcast with Kefla and Lucretia, but she loves to go by Cree. And it's all things relationships, family, parenting, just talking about regular stuff a couple would talk about. And we get along great. Like I get along great with my wife. Like at the end of the day, I'm beating the bus out of the parking lot trying to get home to her.
Oh, that's
You know what
beautiful.
I'm saying? So it's I think it's going to be something that a lot of people are going to really enjoy.
Well, we are looking forward to your podcast, Refreshingly Normal,
Hmm.
with Kefla and Cree. We're going to be looking for that on July 27th. Also, the anniversary event for Road Rules will take place on Sunday, July 27th at 3 p.m. at the
Hmm.
Brea Improv in Brea, in Orange County, California. And so be sure to check that out. Thank you, Dr. Kefla. I
Thank
appreciate you.
you. I appreciate you, man. Anytime.
You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.